The king of Bellicourt carried Yerenika over his shoulder as he moved steadily toward the palace gates. From her perspective, everything felt upside down. I'm screwed. Why is the ground above my head and the sky below my feet? She thought as she stared at the floor passing beneath her. She began counting in her head to distract herself. 1 brick, 2 brick. Suddenly, a voice shouted from behind them. Princess Yerenika! Unhand the princess! You brute! 2 guards rushed forward with swords drawn, but soldiers of Bellicourt quickly intercepted them. One of the attacking guards pressed in closer, only to be kicked hard in the stomach by the king. The guard collapsed to the ground with a groan. Such a nuisance, the king muttered as he drew his sword, still holding Yerenika on one shoulder with surprising ease. Ag, my stomach! Yerenika winced internally. I said I wanted to stop Theresia's abduction, not take her place. Just then, she caught sight of someone running toward them. Sergei. He was hurrying over, calling her name. Sergei! What took you so long, you big jerk? She shouted, though her voice trembled as the king of Bellicourt adjusted his grip on her. Despite being held upside down, Yerenika tried desperately to reason with him. Her voice broke as she sniffled. Excuse me! Excuse me! Mr. Bellicourt, sir! The king glanced at her briefly. Hey, could you put me down, please? She pleaded. You want me to let you go? He asked, his expression unreadable. I'm not even asking for that. Yerenika said through her tears. I just want to be put down. I'll walk on my own 2 feet, or at least, could you hold me right side up? That's all? He asked. It really hurts. Your armor hurts, she exclaimed. At that, he shifted her, lowering her from his shoulder. To her surprise, she wasn't placed on the ground at all, but rather on the back of a horse. Wait, horse? She gasped in disbelief. The king mounted alongside her, keeping her firmly in place. Yerenika's eyes widened as the animal shifted under her. What's happening? Put me down. I'm scared, she cried. Hush, the king said calmly, placing his hand on her shoulder as he reached for the horse's strap. If I fall, she began nervously. Keep your back straight and lean against me, he instructed. Like this? Yerenika asked, awkwardly adjusting her posture. Yes, like that, he confirmed. Then, lifting his voice, the king addressed his soldiers. Army of Bellicourt, we ride! His horse reared up on its hind legs before charging forward, startling Yerenika as the entire army surged behind him. We'll pass through the magic circle. Don't fall behind, he shouted to his men. Magic circle? Yerenika thought, trying to see past the jolting ride. She spotted it ahead, a glowing, radiant circle etched into the ground. As they neared it, a blinding white light flared. Yerenika gasped, her eyes overwhelmed, but the king's hand shielded her vision. My eyes, she cried. Don't stop. Keep going. We won't stop until we're on Bellicourt soil, the king commanded, urging his troops forward. They charged into the circle together, the light enveloping them. Later, when Yerenika opened her eyes again, the world felt noisy. She could hear men talking around her, their chatter loud and restless. Blinking, she saw the king nearby, standing with a cloaked man. Bellicourt soldiers gathered behind them. You're awake, the king said softly. Yerenika froze. Whoa. A hot guy. A hot guy talked to me, she thought, her face heating up. Princess, he called again, but she didn't answer. Instead, she giggled faintly, dazed. The king frowned slightly, turning to the cloaked mage at his side. Is something terribly wrong with her? He asked, genuine concern in his tone. My eyes are pleased, Yerenika thought dreamily, still flushed. Allow me to examine her, your majesty, the mage replied. He stepped closer, lowering himself beside Yerenika. Your highness, if you'd... Pardon me, he said, extending his hand from within his cloak. Yerenika's eyes widened as she saw magic gathering in his palm. A wave of nausea hit her. What's this? Did I get motion sickness? She wondered, covering her ears, her body feeling strange. One moment, your highness, the mage murmured, moving his glowing hand toward her face. He pressed it lightly to her forehead, and at once, pain shot through her. Yerenika collapsed, clutching her head. It feels like my head's going to explode. It hurts. It's torture. Her body trembled as she reached a hand out weakly. Please, someone. Anyone. Help me. The king stepped forward quickly, taking her hand gently from the ground. Through her hazy vision, Yerenika lifted her eyes toward him. The pain disappeared, she thought, though she could barely make out his face. Her fingers brushed against the tip of his boot as her hand fell lower. Princess, are you all right? The king asked, his voice rising with alarm. As Yerenika remained on the floor, tears streamed down her face. I'm all right. Wah, she murmured, though her voice was trembling. What the heck? I was on full alert these past few days to protect Theresia, only to end up kidnapped and carried around like a sack of flour. Then I was thrown on a galloping horse, and I've never even ridden one before. On top of that, I felt a pain unlike anything I've ever experienced in my life. She hugged herself tightly, her sobs growing louder. If I had known this would all happen, would I have chosen differently? No. I still would have done it all again. That's what makes it even sadder. Princess, the king of Bellicour said softly as he knelt down before her, his expression tense. Her tear-filled eyes lifted toward him. If you couldn't take my sister, why didn't you just go home? Why did you have to take me instead? You meanie! Horrible. She hiccuped mid-sentence, her voice full of frustration and despair. And of all the things to grab, why did I have to grab your foot? She cried again, burying her face in her hands. The king reached out, his large hand gently taking hold of her arm, steadying her. She looked up at him in surprise as he helped her rise. For a moment, she went quiet, her tearful gaze caught on his face. So handsome, she thought, sniffling as her nose reddened. What are you so sad about? He asked calmly. Huh? Yerenika blinked, caught off guard. He carefully settled her onto a cloth laid out on the floor. The moment her eyes fell on the design, she gasped inwardly. The Bellicourt flag? He sat me down on their flag. The king spoke again, his voice carrying both regret and concern. I did not know you were sensitive to magic. I'm sorry. Did it hurt that much? He leaned closer, wiping at her tear-streaked face with his own handkerchief. Yes? Yerenika stammered, trying to control the hiccup building in her throat, and for the sudden abduction. It must have been quite a shock. He continued to dab gently at her cheeks. Ugh, this is humiliating. Yerenika thought as the cloth stuck to her damp skin. Snatching the handkerchief from his hand, she muttered, I'll do it myself, and began to wipe her face. But what was that pain I felt earlier? She wondered. It's not there anymore. So, the king asked, watching her, have you ever been sensitive to magic or magical ores before? Yerenika's mind went blank. I have no idea, she answered softly. A magic sensitivity? She thought, bewildered. You don't know? His tone grew serious. Flinching slightly under his gaze, she whispered, I've never had something like this happen before. Though, when I say before, I only mean the past 8 months I remember, she thought to herself. The king turned toward his mage. Rolf, what happened? Yerenika froze as the man who had touched her earlier approached. One moment, Your Highness, Rolf said, placing his hand gently on her forehead. It's him, the guy who touched me before. The pain got worse after that. I knew it, she thought in alarm. Rolf lowered his hand. If someone is more sensitive to magic than the average person, something like this can easily happen, he explained. Could the person with the sensitivity not even know about it? The king asked. Possibly, if they grew up in an environment with little to no exposure to magic, Rolf replied thoughtfully. Then why is she fine again? I'm not entirely sure, Your Majesty. I might learn more if I could examine the princess further, but she does not seem very open to being touched, Rolf admitted with a respectful bow. The king sighed. I see. In any case, I suppose this means it's impossible to use a magic circle again. He rose to his feet, his voice firm as he gave the order to his men. We've crossed the border. From this point onward, we continue by horse. Yes, sir, the soldiers responded in unison. Turning back to Yerenika, the king added, Ah, you also seemed unfamiliar with horse riding. I can ride a horse, Yerenika blurted out, though her hiccup ruined the confidence in her tone. You looked too frightened for that to be true, he replied, his expression unreadable. I can't ride one on my own, but... Her words trailed off as she lowered her gaze. Why do I feel like such a huge bother right now? Wait, hold on. I'm the one who's been kidnapped. Why am I worrying about bothering my kidnapper? Then you'll ride with me, he said simply, extending his hand to her. If we travel all day, we'll reach our destination the day after tomorrow. It's all because he's being too nice, Yerenika thought, staring at his outstretched hand. Get up, he told her gently. She hesitated. No matter how I think about it, he's way too considerate for a kidnapper. Decalb in the novel became obsessive because he grew up deprived of love and affection. But this man, I thought his father would be much colder. Slowly, she placed her hand in his. He pulled her to her feet. Thank you, she whispered. Then, hesitantly, she asked, do you have any intention of returning me to Livovny? Silence fell between them. Her chest tightened as tears threatened to rise again. I knew it. No matter how kind he seems, in the novel he's the man who kept Teresia captive for 10 years. Finally, he spoke. Once I reach a settlement with Livovny, until then, I will guarantee your safety and comfort. I swear it on the name of Bellecourt. Her eyes widened slightly, emotions swirling inside her. This is a man who will be brutally slaughtered by his own son before he even turns 40. To know how his life will end and to be the only one aware of it, it feels like carrying a heavy responsibility. The same kind of responsibility I once felt for Teresia. So may I request your cooperation, Princess? He asked. Though, if this sounds like a threat, I cannot help how it may come across. Yerenika blinked, realizing something. Wait, now that I think about it, I don't even know this man's name. He doesn't even appear in the novel. Miss Dad, father of, she muttered awkwardly. Father? The king flinched slightly at the word. May I ask your name, sir? She asked politely. Eurydion, he answered. Eurydion, she repeated softly. Eurydion Louis Solidor de Bellecourt, he clarified. As you may already know. I'm Yerenika Sofia Livovny. Nice to meet you, she said with a small, nervous smile. The pleasure is mine, Eurydion replied, watching her gently. The army rode their horses at a steady, gentle pace. Yerenika, sitting behind King Eurydion on the same horse, felt uneasy. She tried to keep her posture proper, but her body was stiff. Eurydion glanced at her and spoke calmly. Relax your body, princess. If you keep your upper body too stiff, your back will hurt. Trying to sound confident, she quickly replied, No, it doesn't hurt at all. But her thoughts betrayed her. Did he take his armor off because I complained about how much it hurt earlier? She shifted slightly. It is a bit more comfortable for my butt. But without the armor, our bodies are too close together. I can feel his tight muscles through his clothes. And with the horse moving like this, I'm feeling everything way too well. Her face grew hot as she realized just how close she was to him. Yerenika, who had been single all her life due to her shy nature, couldn't help sneaking glances at Eurydion. Also, does this guy not sweat? He smells so clean and cool. It's actually making me feel better, almost like I'm energized just by being near him. But then she suddenly noticed her throat was dry. Oh my god, I had no idea I was such a thirsty woman. Her temperature rose even higher. Distracted, her grip loosened, and she lost her balance on the horse. Eurydion immediately reached out and caught her by the waist, holding her securely. Sit still, princess, he said firmly. Embarrassed, her cheeks flushed red as she thought, Yup, this is too much. This is way too embarrassing. A few hours later, the group stopped to set up camp. Yerenika was so weak she almost collapsed onto the ground, nearly unconscious. Rolf, the mage accompanying them, began performing a spell to start a fire. Yerenika, her body trembling, could only watch his hands as he cast magic. She stretched out her shaking hands, feeling like she was dying. Eurydion quickly held her hand and tried to help her up. Now's not the time to be embarrassed about him touching me, she thought, leaning closer as tears filled her eyes. The strange thing was, as soon as Eurydion touched her, the pain in her body began to subside. Eurydion wrapped her gently in his arms, patting her back to calm her. He turned to Rolf and asked, How strange. Isn't she a little too sensitive? All I did was start a fire, Rolf said innocently. But this was not the first time Yerenika had reacted this way. It was already the third time. The first was when they passed through a magic circle. The second when they tried healing magic on her, and now again when Rolf used magic to start a simple campfire. It seems that the princess is a person unadapted to magic, Rolf explained. Unadapted to magic? Eurydion repeated, sounding uncertain. Yes. It's rare, but there are humans who cannot physically or mentally endure magic, Rolf said. Yerenika listened silently, her thoughts racing. No, there's a more basic reason for this. Remember what they said the first time? To be unexposed to magic in this world. That can only mean one thing. It's because I'm not really from this world. Though she was living in Yerenika's body, inside she was still Yunsu-su. Eurydion, still holding her, gave a firm command. Refrain from using magic for now, Rolf. Even the smallest spells seem to harm her. Be careful. But Eurenica couldn't stop thinking about the oddity. Why does it hurt so much? Like I'm about to die, but the pain disappears the moment this man touches me. Eurydion then picked her up in his arms as he rose to his feet. Are you sure nothing like this happened before in Livovny, princess? He asked. She stayed quiet. For the past 8 months, I haven't even seen a mage since I came to this world. Compared to Bellicourt, Livovny is a weak country. But if my body rejects magic, and that's the kingdom I'm being taken to? No joke. I might actually just drop dead. Tears welled in her eyes again. Could you just knock me out instead? She blurted out. What? Eurydion looked tense at her sudden request. Just whap. A real quick hit to the back of the head. You'd be able to make it to the palace while I'm unconscious, she explained. You want me to hit you? He asked in disbelief. At least that kind of pain would be momentary. It'd be nice to wake up already in bed, she said with a faint smile. I reject your request, he answered firmly, then set her down gently on her feet. I will not mistreat another kingdom's royalty. Eurenica blinked at him. Why do you have to be such a considerate kidnapper? She thought in confusion. Looking around, she noticed some of his soldiers resting nearby. That guy has an arm that's slightly open. And look at that guy's leg. So you can't even light a fire without magic. That means we can't eat, and you can't even heal them either, she pointed out, frustrated. I cannot continue to detain you any longer, Eurydion said. If you feel bad about raising your hand to me, you could just use another magic circle like before. I'll probably pass out from that too, she argued. And what if something terrible happens to you in the process? He asked seriously. Eurenica fidgeted nervously with her hands. If something goes wrong, you could just hug me, like you did just now. Her face flushed red as she thought quickly. I am absolutely not saying this because I have feelings for him. Absolutely not. Eurydion, however, shook his head. That wouldn't be hard to do. But once again, I refuse your request. We can always build a fire by hand. And you are an unarmed woman who cannot even hold a sword. You're also terrible at hiding yourself. Those men are seasoned troops of Bellicourt. You cannot compare yourself to them. He unclasped his cape and draped it over her shoulders, carefully fastening the button. I asked for your cooperation, not your sacrifice. Did I not guarantee your safety and comfort? Unless you want to make the master of Bellicourt a liar, you should stop this line of thought. But just in case, stay close to me. The borders of Bellicourt are protected by magical ore. Eurenica was touched, her face growing warm as she clutched the pin of his cape. But inside, her resolve hardened. No, I cannot allow this. I can't let a man like this die young, all because his son uses him as a test subject for black magic. I have to save him. Her eyes brimmed with tears. Decalb's father, I'm going to save him, she whispered, brushing her tears away. Eurydion looked at her strangely. Why do you keep saying so-and-so's father? He asked, clearly confused. You can count on me, she declared with sudden determination, making him look even more perplexed. The soldiers had set up a fire without relying on magic. Eurenica sat quietly on a chopped tree trunk, her back leaning against Eurydion's. Her thoughts wandered as she stared into the flickering flames. The air in Bellicourt is heavier than in Livovny. It's so filled with magic that I can hardly breathe. And yet, just being next to him makes it easier. This man really has something miraculous flowing through him. But is there no treatment for someone like me? Her reflection was interrupted when Rolf called out from a distance. Nothing has been discovered yet, he reported. He was deliberately keeping his distance, aware of her inability to tolerate magic. Eurenica barely registered his words, too deep in her own worry. This is a serious situation, she thought. Then, Rolf's next statement cut into her thoughts. The established theory is that those who are maladjusted to magic usually don't survive past their 5th year of life. I'm not sure how Princess Eurenica managed to live this long. Her head shot up in shock. Huh? Did you say the 5th year? She cried out, startling even herself. Yes, Rolf answered calmly. That's usually the case. It doesn't matter if they live in a place with as little magical influence as possible. Magic isn't confined to the earth. It's one of the 2 fundamental forces that make up this world. It's in the ground we walk on and the air we breathe. Naturally, it's almost impossible for someone maladjusted to survive here for long. Eurenica flinched at his calm explanation. Don't give me a death sentence with such a straight face. But Rolf quickly added, I only meant that your highness is an exception. You made it into adulthood without problems. Her chest tightened. That's because the real Urenica was fine until now. But me, I've been here for almost 9 months already. That means I only have 4 years and 3 months left until my 5th year here. Her expression tensed as she whispered, 4 years and 3 months. Eurydion noticed her sudden unease. Princess? He said softly, concern flickering in his eyes. Does this mean I'm terminally ill? This is insane! Eurynica thought, panicking. She turned on Rolf. What kind of thing are you saying? Eurydion gently pulled her closer, steadying her. Wait, continue, Rolf. Rolf nodded. Perhaps the blood of the gods that flows through your majesty helps neutralize the effects of magic. If I may cautiously suggest it, the princess might be benefiting from that connection. Divinity and magic, they interact. Divinity, Eurydion repeated quietly, deep in thought. Divinity. Eurynica echoed inwardly. Suddenly, her memory sparked. Oh right, this world really does have gods. The Bellecourt royal family's divinity was heavily discussed in Decalb's side story. In the past, Bellecourt was the center of the Holy Empire because the royal line descended from Loris, the god of peace and prosperity, which means this man is literally a descendant of a god. He's basically the Jesus of this world. Rolf continued. With your divine lineage, the princess can be assured of her safety. Even without you actively invoking your divinity, the energy surrounding you protects her. She is likely reacting to that. Eurynica blinked. So the king's divine power can save me and this useless body of mine? Then Rolf asked suddenly, Princess Eurynica, have you been blessed by the god Loris? Her mind blanked. Eurydion turned toward her. Have you been baptized? Oh, baptized? She stammered. Her mind raced. When Theresia found out she was pregnant with Brigitte, she received a blessing. Royalty usually receive Loris's blessing even before birth, so Eurynica must have too. I probably did, she answered hesitantly. Euridion's expression shifted in surprise. You did? Yes, she said softly, confirming it. She knew Rolf would never ask for her eternal name. It would be rude. In this world, your eternal name, given at baptism, was sacred. Only parents or a spouse could know it. To ask casually would be an insult to the name given by God. She remembered how, in the original novel, Alexio revealed his baptismal name to Brigitte when confessing his feelings. But this isn't the time to think about that. She scolded herself. If you were baptized, then it's possible, Eurydion said calmly, since Livovny is also under Loris's protection. Yes, perhaps the princess survived until now because of the blessing. Rolf added with a light laugh. Eurydion's expression tightened. If there's fault here, it's mine for dragging her into this world as an interloper. But Eurynica felt a small relief. Then, if the capital is holy ground, that should be good for me. I believe so, Rolf agreed. Her thoughts began to race again. So, to summarize, I'm from another world, so I have no immunity to magic. That makes me maladjusted. But Eurynica's body was blessed by Loris, and as long as I stay near someone with strong divine power, I'll survive. That means I need to stay close to Eurydion. Her mind spiraled further. Plan B was to stop the king of Bellecourt from kidnapping Theresia. That almost worked, but I ended up being the one kidnapped. And now, I'm completely useless because I'm sensitive to magic. I can't even think about helping someone else when my survival is on the line. But isn't it ironic that the side character who was supposed to die tragically in the original novel is now the one who could save me? Her eyes sharpened. Fine. Plan C, ship the side characters together. It's a win-win. Until I figure out how to survive in this body, I have to stay right next to Eurydion. But her thoughts didn't stop there. And to prevent Eurydion's eventual death at the hands of his son, I have to stop that son from learning black magic. Decalb learned it from his mother. Which means the solution is simple. Prevent Eurydion from marrying her in the first place. Her face flushed red. Then, all he has to do is marry me. Princess? Eurydion's voice broke her thoughts. Yes! She gasped, snapping out of her daze. Her heart raced. It feels disrespectful to think about this when he's right in front of me, but still, this is perfect. Their eyes met, and the air around them grew heavier as their gazes lingered, unspoken thoughts flickering between them. The next morning, as the soldiers were preparing to depart, Eurenica found herself unable to take her eyes off Eurydion. He stood tall in front of his horse, his expression calm and composed, every movement precise. Eurenica's gaze lingered on him longer than she intended, her face growing warmer with each passing second. Marrying a kind, handsome man like him, she thought to herself, her mind wandering. Even if it's nothing more than a delusion, it's still nice just thinking about it. Eurydion must have noticed her staring because he suddenly asked, while holding onto his horse's strap, "What are you thinking about?" Caught off guard, Eurenica tried to play it off lightly. "I was thinking, you're pretty hot for a dad," she said teasingly, though in her heart she was truly thinking, "I want to marry you." Her words left him momentarily speechless. Eurenica's imagination quickly took over. She pictured herself in a wedding gown with Eurydion standing beside her at the altar. But as soon as the thought surfaced, insecurity followed. Is he staring at me like I'm strange? She wondered. Her mind drifted through their shared moments up until now. Sure, he's seen me in some unseemly situations, but I don't think I was that much of a nuisance. Was I? Her chest sank with the thought, and she tried to push it away before it pulled her further down. Eurydion finally spoke. "You're quite extraordinary. You're very strange." Eurenica couldn't help but smile, even though her heart twisted with embarrassment. This is humiliating. That's it. There's no way he'll ever marry me. For me, it might feel like a matter of life and death, but why would the king of Bellecourt marry a princess from such a tiny kingdom? Her thoughts were interrupted when his voice softened. "Princess Eurenica," he called, drawing her gaze. Then he extended his hand. "Come here, princess." She hesitated only briefly before stepping closer. With surprising gentleness, he lifted her onto his horse and climbed up behind her. Eurenica's face flushed bright red as she realized how natural this was beginning to feel. "I'm slowly getting used to this sort of thing," she thought, embarrassed but also secretly pleased. Eurydion raised his voice to his men. "Let's go! We'll make it to the capital today, so keep your spears up, men." "Yes, sir," the soldiers responded in unison, their voices filling the air. As they set off, Eurenica's mind returned to a heavier concern. Even if it's impossible for me to marry this man, I must stop him from marrying a dark mage. She remembered vividly what she had read in the original novel, the fate that awaited him and his son, Dekalb. The dark mage's words to Dekalb still echoed in her mind. "If you want, you can have everything in this world, even the distant world of the gods beyond Udetta. As long as you desire it, you can hold all the power in your hands." To Eurenica, that woman was the true reason Dekalb strayed toward darkness. She must have been out of her mind, leading her own son down the path of black magic. How can I stop that marriage before it begins? Her thoughts raced. When exactly does Eurydion marry in the story? She recalled the timeline. Brigitte is supposed to be born in about 2 months. No, since Theresia wasn't kidnapped this time, maybe 3 months from now? Alexio and Brigitte are the same age, and Dekalb is 1 year younger than them. If Dekalb is younger by a year, then at most, I have only a year left. The realization made her tense. She glanced up at Eurydion nervously. Your Majesty?" "What is it?" he replied, glancing down at her. How do I even ask him this? She thought, hesitating. He must have noticed her hesitation because he called again, "Princess?" Finally, she blurted out, "Your Majesty, are you unwed? Or are you expecting a child?" Her voice came out sharper than intended, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. Why did I even ask it like that? Eurydion looked at her calmly, unfazed by the awkward question. "First, I am not married yet." "Yet?" Eurenica echoed softly. "Therefore, I obviously don't have a child, and I am definitely not expecting one." He added firmly. Relief flooded her chest. "Unmarried with no kids, that's a good thing," she said quickly, still trying to cover her embarrassment. "You ask peculiar things, Princess," he said evenly, and with no provocation. The way he said yet, though, it's giving me a bad feeling, Eurenica thought uneasily. Not long after, the group finally approached the kingdom. Eurenica's eyes widened as the capital of Bellecourt came into view. "Wow," she whispered in awe. The grandeur of Bellecourt stood in sharp contrast to Lavavny. Bellecourt looks old and historical, while Lavavny feels more cute in comparison, she thought, her head turning constantly as she tried to take in every sight. Without a word, Eurydion reached over and draped his robe over her, pulling the hood over her head. "Sire?" she asked, startled by the sudden gesture. The gaze of the crowd might be uncomfortable, he explained simply, just as the noise of the citizens reached them. Yerenika flinched at the sight of the waiting crowd. Long live Bellicourt, the people shouted, hailing their king as the soldiers marched into the palace. Her heart pounded at the sight. If it wasn't for this cape, I really would have been overwhelmed. This man, he really is so kind-hearted. He's the perfect husband material. When they reached the palace gates, Eurydion carefully helped her down from the horse. Her face burned again at his touch. If I could, I'd just kidnap him myself and make him my husband. Not that I really could, but a girl can imagine. Before she could dwell further on her thoughts, a beautiful woman suddenly rushed forward. Your Majesty, the woman cried, her voice trembling with emotion. I'm so relieved you made it back safe and sound. You have no idea how worried I was, Your Majesty. She dashed to Eurydion's side, her eyes glistening with tears, completely ignoring Yerenika. Yerenika blinked, confused. Huh? Lady Elodia? She thought, stunned at the woman's sudden and emotional appearance. Thank you for watching this episode of our Manhwa recap. We hope you enjoyed diving into the world of this story with us. If you loved the content, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. Your support means the world to us and helps us bring you even more amazing manhwa recaps. See you in the next episode.